session of day one. Opportunities for improving economic efficiency across the life of mine cycle now, as we welcome Felicity Hughes. Felicity is a geologist, geochemist, and possesses more than 35 years' experience in a wide range of commodities. They range from grassroots exploration, planning and management, due diligence, resource evaluation, feasibility, mine grade and ore control, and geometallurgy. She's worked on the development and management of geological beneficiation and geometallurgy models for a number of commodities. Felicity has worked in Australia, Brazil, and Zambia, and has successfully run her own consultancy for more than 25 years. Welcome, Felicity.
Thank you. I don't think I wrote that. Look, I've been sitting in here this morning listening to all these wonderful startup companies. The excitement's there. We're in a boom. Everything's happening. Then I sat through the technical session this afternoon where we were talking about, well, it's kind of like the beware bit. That's all very well, but, you know, so many things can go wrong when we're rushing it and do go wrong. And we had a really good talk on resources and metallurgy and lithium, because we had a lot of lithium talks this morning as well. So I thought this particular talk that I wanted to present is quite a good tie-in for that, because it's focused on where we can actually improve our efficiency across the life of mine, or where to actually do it, which of course will increase profitability. And of course, profitability is the name of the game. Everybody wants to make more money. And I'm hoping I'm going to demonstrate that it actually doesn't take much to lose your profitability, and find the ways where we can actually fix that so that you end up putting into the bank instead of on the tailings dam. So we know that ore bodies are extremely variable in just about everything. And there's quite a few areas where we can improve efficiency. But most of these are probably lost in the initial frenzy of starting up a new company, or the pressure of bringing a project online, which often happens from the corporate side. And often things are missed, or we cut corners, we make compromises, it all happens. And we never usually find out how bad it is until we're actually starting to produce product. And then we have to go back and fix things, and that costs more money and more time. And I'm kind of asking the question of what would happen if we actually started out as we mean to carry on and did all this stuff right from the beginning, so that we'd have a better idea as to how to handle things when they go wrong. So the life of mine cycle, you know, we've got our exploration, resources, reserves, mine planning, mining, processing, is a long, interconnected, continuous thing that lasts for as long as we can actually make it last. And we're talking, you know, 20 years plus usually, from the time the initial concept of a project through to development and then mining and end of mine. At the start, we're all focused on grade. And we've heard many times people saying grade is king, you know, focus on the grade. And that's very true when you start. If you don't have grade, you don't have a project. So clearly, obviously, the first priority when you're starting up and you're developing a project is to make sure that you have your grade. And that happens at the exploration stage. Generally, when we're doing resources, we're focused on grade. When we go reserves, we're focused on grade. Same with mine planning, grade. And it's really only when we get to the processing side that people actually start to really focus on recoverable product. And in actual fact, recoverable product is the ultimate goal of what we're doing. We're trying to create as much mineral content as we can out the back end. That will make us the most money. What would happen if we actually started to focus on recoverable product at a much earlier stage in the life of mine, basically at the exploration stage? So it doesn't mean take your focus off on grade, but it means actually putting the focus on all those other parameters that are going to be important for your optimal product recovery at the back end. So just let's talk about recoverable product for a minute. It's by definition the amount of valuable metal or mineral that can be recovered by metallurgical treatment. It's almost always, not always, but almost in the past anyway, been associated with the back end part of the life of mine from the pilot plant stage, mineral processing stage, and then your plant stage. And generally, metallurgical test work is left until that time. There's not a lot of communication between the exploration, the reserves, the resources, and the mine planning stage with input into that part. We at CSA, for example, have been trying to encourage communication between all disciplines, cross-pollinate, I call it, so that everybody has a really good understanding of what everybody else does and also has an understanding of the parameters that impact product recovery and how they can be managed when problems occur, and they will occur throughout the whole life of mine cycle. So the next few slides are just a generic example, just a cartoon almost, that sort of shows you what you might gain or lose by not focusing on details and perhaps missing the opportunities where you could actually increase efficiency. So let's talk about gold, because gold is sort of like a big thing at the moment. It's $2,500 an ounce at the moment, which is an amazing sort of place to be. So if we were just to take a 600,000 tonne gold deposit at 2 grams per tonne, you know, that's a pretty small deposit, but, you know, 2 grams, that's not an unrealistic sort of scenario. That's about 38,600 ounces, which in terms of profit, like total net profit, it's not net, sorry, gross profit, is about 96.5 million tonnes at today's price, and that's nothing to be sneezed at. What I'm showing here is that if we were to drop the grade by 0.1 gram, which isn't a huge amount, but it happens, we would lose nearly $5 million out of that. Drop it another 0.1 gram, we'd lose another 5 million tonnes. We'd basically have lost 10 million tonnes out of the gate. And I put in the 1.75 because I wanted to demonstrate that at that, using those parameters there, we could get a plus or minus change of $2.4 million in gold, depending on whether or not we were trying to improve it or if we've lost it. That's quite a lot. So moving on to the other, I just need to go back to a slide. I forgot a critical thing. With recoverable product, of course, metal content is grade times tonnes times recovery factor, and which is actually grade times volume times density times recovery factor. And density is the bane of a resource geologist's life because it's never, very rarely done adequately enough. It needs to be really treated with as much care and attention as grade, because it's as variable as grade, particularly in weathered environments. And it very rarely is. I mean, I had a nickel laterite resource I was doing, and they spent so much time and money on getting their grade variability. And then they gave me a 1-figure density value and said, oh, well, this is an average density value of a similar nickel laterite deposits that's 70 kilometres away, and wanted me to make it a measured resource. And I said, sorry, can't do that. So if we were to actually take that same 600,000 tonnes and make it at 2 grams and then drop the density by a 0.1 grams per centimetre cube, which is not a small, not a big amount, but it's indicative of the kind of variability that you will get. And you get a similar sort of scenario here. Basically, you, for every 0.05 change in density, you would get it's $161 a tonne per that. So in this scenario here, that you basically, at dropping it down, you would lose quite a lot of money as well. if we add dilution into the factor, so if we're assuming that we might put a bit of waste into our ore, which you will, there will be waste going into the plant. It's inevitable. The whole point is to try and minimize that and minimize the effect of that. Just hypothetically, put in a 15% dilution at 0.2 grams. By the time you've gone through that, you have basically dropped your grade from 2 grams a tonne to 1.73, and you've got a $30 million loss of revenue. So this is what happens when we accidentally add waste to ore. So why would we not want to do better than this? The whole point of this is to basically point out the fact that at today's commodity prices, I think it'd be worthwhile to really go back and have a look at your operations, have a look at your projects, have a look at your gap analyses, and just see where you are missing critical information that is going to impact on grade and tonnes and product recovery. And for the recovery factor, I've just done another example here using the same diluted resource. 94% recovery is not unheard of for gold. You might lose another 4.8%, but that's probably a $4.8 million loss that you would happen anyway, because you would never get 100% recovery. But if you drop that recovery even further, then you're starting to look at more and more loss of revenue that you probably don't even realize that you're losing until you actually start to not get what you think you should be getting out of your plant. So the original 100% revenue of 96.5 million tonnes could have dropped to 70 million, and I don't think your shareholders would have been very happy. So how can we fix this? Well, understanding of grade variability, and that's usually done extremely well by everybody. Understanding of variability of tonnes is not done well by everybody. That's where we need to pay attention to density. And by density, it also means both wet and dry density, because if you want to improve profitability, you also need to try and minimize your working costs. And if you have a really good idea of your wet density, your in situ density that your mining contractors are taking out, then you can basically go and have the fight with them when they tell you that they've got this and you say, no, you haven't. You will save money because, you've got to anticipate how much you're going to be digging out. And if you can get between 5 and 10% reconciliation on that, you're doing pretty well, and that's cost effective. Same with the dry tonnes. That's the one that we do our resources on. How we do density is probably the thing that people hesitate on. They say, oh, it's costly to do downhole density. We'll do a few bits of core here. Trying to take core in weathered material just doesn't cut it. You've just really got to find ways where you can get a reasonable spread of density values across your deposit that's going to tie down your variability of tonnes, so that when you're trying to calculate your metal content, you've got a really reasonable chance that you're going to get accurate results. Pay attention to alteration and weathering in terms of product recovery, because the weathering is one of the significant factors in terms of reducing recovery. Anything that's got clay in it, you start putting that through a plant, stuffs up the slurries, it reduces recovery, and you've lost material that's going out, probably in this case to the tailings dam, often to the waste dump as well. I'll talk a little bit about that very briefly before. But the best time, obviously, to collect this data is at the exploration phase. And that's what I meant by starting as you mean to go on. If you start collecting all this data right from day one, when it comes to the resource or to the mining where you're not getting reconciliation, you won't have to go back and spend extra money on getting that extra data, because you'll already have it. And in fact, I've found in reality, most people will probably have a lot of that data, but they're not using it. So this is an opportunity to go back and check to see what you do have, make sure that it's used in its proper way. And that's the time while you're still exploring, is to go out and make sure that you collect the rest of it. I'm not going to go into a big talk about geometallurgy. We've been hearing a few talks about that today, but that is the key to optimizing recoverable product, because that is the key to identifying the differences in the physical properties of your ore and gangue and waste minerals, and identify the properties that will inhibit recovery, like hardness, and whether or not you can, dissolve it easily or crush it, grind it, all these things, the physical properties, which generally are left to be sorted out at the metallurgical stage. If you're doing small scale variability geomet sampling during the exploration stage, you'll have a much better idea of what's going on. It's an early risk assessment, and it'll give you a much better idea as to how to do your metallurgical samples later on, and that will save you money. That was just a slide to explain the sorts of variables that the geomet sampling can provide you. So in conclusion, it's really, the devil is in the details. If you don't sort of collect all the data at the start, then that's going to be a costly exercise anyway. But it also means that you won't have that information available when you run into problems later on, and we'll have to go back and spend more money. But by doing this, getting a better understanding and a better tie down of your variability of your grade and tons and your product recovery, hence, your metal recovery, that will enhance your profitability, and your shareholders will thank you and might even give you a bonus at the end of the year. So thank you.
Felicity. Thank you, Felicity. And that was a mean-looking devil you threw up there in that last slide. Tombador Iron is producing the Atlantic Basin's highest grade iron ore from operations in Bahia State in Brazil. Abby Macnish Niven, CFO and Company Secretary, joins us today to explain how Tombador has delivered a producing mine inside 9 months from the commencement of construction. Welcome, Abby.
Thank you for having me here today. I know that Stephen Quantrill is in the program as presenting today. Unfortunately, he's been caught up with travel, so I'm very proud to represent the board of Tombador Iron today and take you through our high-grade iron ore project in Brazil. Just let you have a quick read of that. If we look at the project that we have, it's a very high grade of iron ore hematite at some of the best quality, arguably, on the market at the moment. It is a 100% owned project by Tombador Iron Ltd. We own that outright, and it's the project is based in Brazil, which is a notable low risk mining jurisdiction. So the government is very sort of conducive to mining in that part of the world. As I mentioned, the average grade of our products sold to date is just over 65% iron, so very high grade, and we demand a price premium for that, which means the company is very much focused on returns and maximising returns from that asset. If we look at the logistics of our project, we have existing road links and port access that has been negotiated during the ramp-up phase. And we also have local infrastructure to the site, including water, power, roads, and nearby towns. We have commenced production from the 21st of May 2021. So we relisted the company in October of 2020. And then within 9 months, we were at production. And that's when our operating license was awarded. Since then, we have produced 190,000 tonne that is currently on stockpile. And we've also sold into the market. So we've sold 180,000 approximately tonnes to the external market to date, as well as, so that's been both external market and internal steel mills as well, which I'll run through in a bit more detail. That's resulted in our September quarter. We had 6.63 million Australian received to date for sales as at our September quarter announcement to the market. And we have had several repeat orders from our industrial tests with Brazilian steel mills, which is important for the company as well, not just external sales, but internal to Brazil is very important for the project. We have seen that, that our product has been very well received on the market thus far due to its high quality. So I'll run you through in a bit more detail about the project achievements since we listed. As I mentioned, we listed in October 2020. We raised $15 million. That was our maximum subscription in the raise. Since then, we've fast-tracked our production startup. So we constructed the project ahead of time and under budget. And we are now in the ramp-up production, which is underway and has been since mid-May. So in February 2021, we also signed an offtake agreement, which is very important for the external sales to the market, and that's with Trafigura. In February 2021, we actually completed the full mine construction, and we entered the commissioning phase while we continued to finalise our operating licence. In April of 2021, we executed some very significant logistics contracts for our trucking and port operations. And then in April of 2021, our mining concession was approved, closely followed in May by our operating licence, when we were able to commence pre-production at the mine and start sales. And our first sale was in July, and since July we've had 4 shipments leave and approximately 180,000 tonnes total sold to market. So we have had a very, very quick progression since listing to July 2021. And what's important to highlight with that is that this was all done in the background of the COVID-19 pandemic. So Brazil was particularly hard hit by the pandemic, and thanks to the hard work of our team on site, they've managed to do this very, very quick construction and into production of the mine, despite the issues that they've encountered with COVID-19. They're the 4 ships that have left so far and headed to Europe with our product. So you can see about an average of 38,000 tonne on each. We had a very low moisture content of around 1% across those 4 shipments, and the quality has been very high. So an average of 65.5% iron on those 4 shipments as well. So they've all left. The company also takes its social responsibility very seriously in Brazil, and we work with the community to ensure that we are acting appropriately in the community. So we have ongoing community development programs, and we also focus on our sustainability to make sure that we're responsibly looking after the environment that we're working within. So on the community development side, obviously, we have a trucking network to deliver our product to port. So we are very focused on road maintenance and repair from that perspective, to ensure the safety of our drivers as well as others on the road. And we have also worked with the local government to run several road safety campaigns to ensure safety in driving. We have also worked with local government to monitor the impact of the project and ensure that we are being a responsible citizen in terms of our project as well. On the sustainability side, you can see on some of the photos here, we've introduced a hiking trail around the project. We have a nursery and environmental facility on site so that we can ensure that once we have finished mining on the project, we can restore that and rehabilitate the area back to how we found it. So we've ensure that the native species that we displaced have been looked after in the nursery and will be replaced as part of our rehabilitation at the end of the project. We also have worked with the government, so we can see the host community has visited the site. And we also have worked closely with the government in Santosé, which is the village close by, or the town close by. So many of our staff on site have been hired out of that town. So we've been creating jobs for the region as well and working with the local government on projects to help that town. In terms of the operation itself, so far up to pretty much today or yesterday, our production has produced 215 wet metric tonne of lump and 185,000 wet metric tonne of fines up till the 28th Brazil time. It's a very simple operation, as you can see here. So basically, the mining site itself is an open pit mine. It's a drill and blast, load and haul operation. It's then a very short downhill haul to our production area. And you can see our crushing and screening plant. It's completely dry operation. There's no wet tailings. It's just a crushing and screening process. And then we have contractors on site that deliver our mining crushing operations as well as our internal haulage. Now, those contractors are supervised by our dedicated team on site as well. At that stage, we either sell directly to the internal market at the mine gate, and from then on, it's their responsibility to transport that product. For the external market, we then truck the product to the port, and we have a port handling and loading operation as well. And both of those are run by very seasoned operators in the Brazilian market that we have contracts out with. Then we obviously ship to the customer for external sales. That shipping to global customers is managed by our offtake agreement with Trafigura. We work with them to secure customers for the product, and they arrange the shipping. A little bit more on the sales side and the marketing of the product. So the offtake agreement that we have, as I mentioned earlier, is with Trafigura. It's a binding offtake agreement for the purchase of 100% of the ore that we choose to sell into the export market. That pricing, because of our very high quality iron, is linked to the 65% iron index, so the higher premium index. Importantly, with our offtake agreement, we do have the right to sell internally, either via Trafigura or direct to customers ourselves. So it gives us the flexibility to sell direct into the internal market without the offtake agreement stepping in. The important part of the Trafigura agreement as well is from our first shipment, because it provides working capital support. We were cash flow positive from our first shipment because of the payment schedule that we negotiated with Trafigura. So it has provided very good working capital support for the company. Now, at the moment, we are seeing the shipping rates significantly higher than in the past. That's obviously one of those things that's come out of COVID-19 and the logistics of moving product around and delays and things like that, is that the shipping rates are significantly higher than in previous years. What that's meant is the company has made a decision to monitor the export market, and we're going to assess shipping opportunities on a shipment by shipment basis at the moment with Trafigura. The objective is of that is to ensure that we can achieve positive profit margins on our exports without obviously losing all of that margin on the temporary high shipping costs. What that really means is that our sales strategy at the moment is to preserve the resource value for long-term returns to shareholders, to ensure that we're not, selling our very precious high quality product only to, squeeze those margins on the shipping contracts. So we're just ensuring that we are locking in the right price for the external market. Now, we have the internal market to also work with, and we've been having a lot of success in that area. So while I mentioned we've had 4 shipments of the high quality 65 plus iron ore that have been sold since we went into production, we have also had around 30,000 tonnes approximately being sold internally. The benefit of the internal market sales that we've had, and those have been repeat orders from Brazilian steel mills, as well as quite a few Brazilian steel mills undergoing their industrial tests. The benefit of that is they do pick that up at the mine gate, and then they move the product themselves, so we're not exposed to the high shipping rate premiums that are being charged at the moment. So there is a benefit to that in terms of margin protection. So we are focused very heavily on that. The Brazilian steel mills that we have sold product to so far have described the product as corrective material. What that means is they are excited about using our higher quality product to blend with other material in order to create a blended product at a higher iron ore content. So that is it's a real positive for potential future orders by Brazilian steel mills. Looking at our mineral resource, we have around 8 million tonne in our JORC reserve that JORC resource that this is what we went to the market with in October 2020 for our listing. Since then, we've completed our infill drilling campaign, and we're now working to upgrade this resource and convert it to a reserve. We expect that work to be completed in the first quarter of 2022, and we'll release that to market at that time. So we're working in the background to update that and convert. And this is just a big picture of the plant and the stockpile. So you can see it's a nice dry operation. There's no wet tailings or anything like that, as I mentioned earlier. Also, you can sort of see in the background, the area is quite actually similar to sort of the Pilbara of WA. It's not a heavy rainforest that you'd expect in some other parts of Brazil. It's actually quite a dry part of Brazil with not a lot of rainfall. So it is a part of Brazil that's quite amenable to open pit mining because of the short wet season. This slide just summarizes our capital structure. So when we listed, we had a market cap of around 46 million. We conducted a capital raise of $20 million in March of 2021. That capital raise fund allowed us to ramp up production quickly. And we also set aside some of those funds to bring forward our beneficiation project to look at our beneficial ore and see what we can do and the best method to beneficiate that. Now, that had been planned further down in the project, but the capital raise allows us to bring that work forward, and that's underway in the background at the moment as well. You can see our market cap at the moment is around just under 64 million. And our substantial shareholder, Colony Singapore Macrae Investments, who are one of the original shareholders of the larger project that Tombador was carved out of, they have maintained their ownership of around 46% since listing. They haven't moved that position at all. Importantly, our cash balance at the end of September that we announced in the quarterly was just under $30 million Australian, which has given us a lot of working capital headroom for our production ramp up and also the beneficiation project as we get that online. And lastly, I'll just run you through the team. So we have a very experienced board and management in Brazil mining, logistics, marketing, and finance. We have Anna Newling, who's our independent non-executive chairman. She's got extensive financial and corporate role experience in the resources industry, including several directorships of resource companies. Stephen Quantrill is our executive director, and he manages many of the operating aspects with our Brazil CEO and team. He is a chartered engineer with over 20 years experience in corporate leadership and business ownership. Keith Liddell, one of our non-executive directors, is an experienced metallurgical engineer. He's been the founder and chair of several listed and unlisted companies, and he's raised over $1 billion of capital. David Chapman is a very experienced geologist, and he works closely with our geoscience team, and he also is fluent Portuguese speaker, which is very helpful. And then on the ground, we have Gabriel Oliver, who is our Chief Executive Officer. He's been with the broader project for around 13 years, so very long association with the company. He's a Brazilian mining and contract law specialist, and he's got a significant experience in mining startups, and he's backed up by a strong executive team, many of whom have been with the company for over a decade, or the larger project for over a decade. So what this has meant, really importantly, is despite not being able to travel since we've relisted and commenced production, we have a huge amount of longevity and trust with our team on the ground between Australia and Brazil, which has meant that we have been able to get to production so quickly, and the team have done a great job in Brazil to get us there. So we've been very proud to be associated with all of those staff that have been able to bring us to production so quickly. So thank you very much. That's just a summary of the project that we have going. We're very much looking forward to the future and further sales and production for our mining project. And we would like to thank the shareholders for their continued support. If you have any questions, we are at the booth today and tomorrow. Please come visit.
Thank you, Abby. Arrow Minerals is exploring for gold in the Boromo belt of Burkina Faso. Managing Director Howard Golden is going to reveal to us how Arrow secured a dominant position in the greenstone belt that already hosts significant gold mineralization. Welcome, Howard.
Thank you very much, Jerry. And thank you very much for attending this late in the afternoon. I appreciate that. Arrow, in its current iteration, has been around as a result of a merger of two companies for about 2.5 years. Obviously, two of them during the pandemic, I should say. And I want to tell you that it's with some trepidation that I'm taking my first trip to Africa on Monday in a long time. And so I implore you to really pay attention today because I might never get back into Western Australia again. So that's my warning for the day. There's all of our forward-looking information. And here's a little bit about Arrow. During these 2 years, what we've been really focused on is trying to rid ourselves of the responsibilities of non-core assets and really focus in on what we really think is our highest probability of success, which is gold exploration in West Africa. What we've done is we've done what we consider a transformative deal to have a very large land holding in the Bromo belt of Burkina Faso. And I'll tell you about that in a bit of detail. But in the meantime, I just want to mention that we have a pipeline as well of other projects in West Africa in the form of Nako, which is a gold project in Burkina Faso, and the Bolsa project, which is actually right near West African, the Sambrado project, and of course their newly acquired Kiaka project as well. We also in our back pocket have a copper project in Western Australia as well that we will be looking at later in the year. And just a quick word about the things that we don't have, and that is we don't have major distracting projects. We have been able to grab some value from the assets that we didn't think deserved our full attention, such as the Hundi South Gold Project, which is a JV with a Canadian company, the Plum Ridge Nickel, which is a JV with IGO, we retain a royalty, and the Melinda Lithium Project here in WA, for which we also retain a proportion of the project and potentially a royalty. A little bit about the company. As we sit today, we are about a $12.8 million market cap. We have a couple $1 million in the bank, and it's a pretty simple structure. We do have a convertible note and a few options and rights. Shareholders, mostly retail, and the board and management own a few percent here and there. Now, I'm not going to give you the biographies of all of our management, because at this point of our evolution, the most important thing we need is people on the board and management who can find ore deposits. And you can see in this map between us, we have a pretty good track record of finding ore deposits of different kinds, not just gold, in a lot of interesting places. So our pedigree is finding ore deposits. Now let's talk about ore deposits. What we have in order to find these ore deposits, first and foremost, is a strong team, which I just discussed, both here in Australia, and also we have a full-time team in Burkina Faso with good management and geological experience. Our focus, as I mentioned before, is laser-like right now on West African gold, and the land position is a formidable one, and we think that we're on the way to a major gold discovery. Just a quick word about community. As we just saw in the previous presentation, we're all paying a lot of attention to ESG these days, and we're also looking for sustainable ways in which to do that. In this case, we pay attention to things like water supplies, which are critical to the communities in which we're working. We deal a lot with women, and I spend a lot of time with micro business endeavors, such as the soap making that you can see here. We've been involved with healthcare, with COVID, and also with the longer term clinics. And we like to do things that will still be there, hopefully long after we're gone. Now let's get into the project. This is the fun part. Now I'm going to set the stage here. You can see this is Burkina Faso. It's in West Africa. It's landlocked. And Burkina Faso, of course, 12 years ago had no mining. Now there are 14 operating mines. And you can see all the little yellow dots there are mines that are greater than 1 million ounces. And what really starts to stand out to you is where you have the big purple oval there is an area with no gold deposits. Well, why is that? Well, we believe that the main reason that there are no gold deposits, the big gap there, is because most of that land position there is held by a zinc company. And for the last 30 years, there's been very significant and sustained zinc exploration there. But we targeted this not because of that. We targeted this because we thought it had gold potential. And in fact, looking at all the information from the zinc exploration that's been done, we realized that not only does it have gold potential, but it has gold. So this is the land package. Okay, now I'm going to continue with this story now. If you see overall, I'm going to start from the lower left and work up to the upper right. You can see a couple of properties there. I hope you can read this. They're called Divoli West and Divoli East. And those are our 100% properties that we applied and received permits based solely on geological information. And in fact, drilled out a deposit on the Divoli West prospect. But then we started looking at this whole concept of this gap and started talking to a company called Trevally that owns the Percoa zinc mine, as you can see here in red. And all of these, as you move up to the upper right, those permits are owned by Trevally. Those are zinc exploration permits. So we did a fantastic deal for both companies. There aren't that many win-wins in the world anymore, but we did a deal where we can do gold exploration on their zinc properties. They do zinc exploration on our gold properties. And I guess it was win-win, although it turns out that we ended up with a 400% increase in our land position. So we thought we did pretty well out of it. But of course, Trevally gets to do their exploration as well. So what we end up with is about 13,000 square kilometers over an 85-kilometer strike length with access to gold exploration. So that's where we are. We've really sewn up this fantastic transformative land position with a very innovative type of transaction. So now, what do we find there? That's which is more important. Once again, I'm starting in the lower left. These are our properties, the Divoli East and West to the left. And then as you move to the right, you move into the zinc properties. And where you see, hope you can read that, yes, the Dasa deposit we've put together, and that's about 3 kilometers long, and it holds together very well. It's shallow dipping, it's mostly oxides. And we have all sorts of good grades up there, grading into 2 to 3, up to 45 grams per ton under over some economic widths. Then we move over into the next one, Divoli East. These are just exploration holes we've drilled. Once again, what do we have? 3 meters at 4 grams, and that kind of those kind of grades. We haven't drilled enough there to call it a deposit, but those are very encouraging exploration signs. But then we get into the zinc properties, and I want you to take a close look at where the Percoa zinc mine is, because because I'm going to show you another slide of the permits to the east. But first, I just want to say a word about that Dasa deposit. That's our 100% deposit that we drilled out, and you can see from these sections on the right that this is very shallow. In fact, it almost looks like an open pit. It just follows a nice granite sediment contact and gently slopes down. And we haven't drilled this to depth. It's still open on along strike. And we don't have a resource for this, but we have a lot of very good results, and not just good results, but continuous shallow oxide results. Now, as we go up to the northeast, you can see the zinc mine again. And then we get on to the new joint venture properties that we've only had for less than a month after the final deal was signed. So we're just getting on the ground now. And you can see in the orange, a thing called Guido. And Guido is a resource that was done under 2004 JORC. So it's not actually, we'll have to upgrade it, but it's about 150,000 ounces. So you can see where we're going here. We have 150,000 ounce resource. We have Dasa down to the southwest that's actually bigger than Guido. And if you go farther to the northeast, you can see we have tremendous grades and thicknesses in the Semapun and Bantoli areas that are economic grades and thicknesses that start to give you a view to what might be the kind of thing that we could do resource drilling in the relatively short term. And when I say short term, I mean short term because we're drilling as of about 10 days ago. We have drill rigs on site. Now let me just review again. On this map here, you can see lots of little gray dots which are artisanal workings. So you can see that even though we have a substantial, rather remarkable land position, it's not over yet. We're going to be continuing to look at what we can do along strike along these structures. And these structures are very important too, because it's not an accident that these permits follow these northeast structures, because that's where we get the gold in the secondary D1 and D2 fault structures that are associated with these major northeast structures. So we're drilling there today. We have an RC rig and 2 auger rigs busily drilling away, and we're going to. We're going to push forward in the next several months. We're going to do geophysics. We'll be doing more soil and stream geochemistry, particularly up to the northeast, where very little information is known. And we expect over the next couple of months to be able to deliver some very interesting results. So once again, I want to remind you that we spent a lot of time organizing our company. We spent a lot of time doing a deal in order to put this land position together. But now we're actually boots on the ground and drill rigs turning, and we'll expect results very soon. So just to recap once again, we believe we have a good team. We are well focused on West African gold. We have focused on Burkina Faso and specifically because it has such a very positive mining law and geological setting. Things like 3 laboratories in the capital of Ouagadougou, and everything you need to do your exploration and mining right in Burkina. And ultimately, we're here to discover gold. So that's our story. What we've I believe it's fair to say that we've taken an innovative approach in terms of negotiating land position to put together a significant land position with significant results and a very, very, I would say, de-risked exploration project in one of the most prospective areas on the globe. So thanks very much for your attention.
Thank you very much, Howard. To present Kingwest Resources story, we're joined now by CEO Ed Turner. Kingwest has exploration and development gold projects at Goonagari and Menzies, north of Kalgoorlie. Welcome along, Ed.
Thanks, Jerry. Like most companies presenting here today and tomorrow, we're a relatively young company, having listed only 3 years ago, and quite a small company, although we are growing and quite happy with our progress. A quick overview of our board and management. We're very technically focused. I'm an exploration geologist with more than 30 years experience. Adrian Bias and Jonathan Downs are also geologists with plus 25 years experience, focusing more on the economic geology side of things, and a lot of experience with on the corporate and commercial side of things. Greg Bitter, our new chairman from July, is banking and finance, has expertise there. Once again, many years of experience, but also having run junior exploration companies. And John Price is a metallurgist and managing director of Horizon Minerals, who are our majority shareholder at 18%. And basically, we acquired the projects from Horizon Minerals 2 years ago. So that's the Menzies and the Goonagari gold projects. You can see here the location of the 2 projects. We only have the 2 projects, and it's more than enough for a junior company like us. We're very focused on those 2. They're in prime real estate in the Norseman Lunar Belt, north of Kalgoorlie. You can see the relative position of Kalgoorlie. So the greenstone sequence runs through both of our projects. There's no real moose pasture in there. It's all greenstone. The Bardock tectonic zone runs through there as well, right through the Goonagari gold project and up to Menzies. They're both about 125 square kilometres in area, so significant land holdings for a small company like us. What really interested us and attracted us to these projects when they become available is the very high-grade historic production at Menzies. So you'll see from 1895 through to about the Second World War, there was 650,000 ounces produced from underground mining at 22.5 grams per tonne. So you don't tend to find these sorts of projects available nowadays. There was more open cut mining in the 1980s, 1990s, and very little since then. So all up, you have 800,000 ounces at 19 grams per tonne produced from Menzies just within our land holdings. And in the 20 plus years since then, very little exploration was done, only a bit of drilling here and there. We've drilled more in the Menzies project in the last 2 years than in the previous 25 years combined. So we recognise there's a lot of potential for additional discoveries, and we've proven that basically in the last 2 years. And I'll give you some more information on that in a minute. When it comes to Goongarrie, it's very much grassroots exploration. There has been historic production there, but only from small gold mines on the dry land. The reason that there hasn't been so much success, if you like, at Goongarrie, we figure is because 80% of the land holding is under salt lakes and hasn't been effectively explored at any time in the past. And that's what we're focusing on right now. I should point out all of the land holdings at Menzies, all of our resources are in granted mining leases, and we're on the highway, we've got power and water, and we are within trucking distance to numerous mills, which some of them are shown there on the map. And therefore, it's very little capex required to get into production, and we can do that in a very short period of time. Our strategic objectives, the 4 main ones right now, we've made a discovery at Goongarrie. So the number 1 on the list right now, and what's been our focus for the last 3 to 4 months, is follow up on the Sir Lawrence discovery. It's a Kanowna Belle analogue, which based on the lithostructural setting, so similar geological setting, similar structural settings, and that's what we use to do all of our targeting under the lake, and we've been immediately successful with that. So that still applies. We've just completed our 2nd round of air core drilling. That included another 100 holes and 8,000 metres just within the Sir Lawrence discovery prospect. We're still waiting on assays for 42 of those holes, and I'll show you some of the new results in a sec. We're very, very pleased with the progress there. We are just commencing a 1,500 metre diamond core program at Sir Lawrence as well. So the drill rig's out there on site right now. It hasn't had any diamond core drilling in the past. Well, it hadn't even had any air core drilling in the past, but and we plan to follow that up once we figure out the structural controls of the primary mineralisation, which we expect to be multiple quartz veins in potentially different directions. We'll go in there and do more pattern drilling with RC drilling from February next year. Second part of our focus will be to follow up another discovery made at Goongarrie, but on dry land. It's about 12, 13 kilometres from the lake discovery. That's in the south end, north of Aphrodite. It's on a different trend. So we'll be doing some RC drilling of that in the new year as well. The other focus is commercialising our assets at Menzies. We've proven up quite a lot, almost 500,000 ounces of JORC resources right now, just open pittable resources, and we want to get those back into production. We're looking at commercial options there to get them into production without us having to go and borrow $100 million basically to build a mill or something like that. And then to continue to grow the Menzies resources, we've really only scratched the surface there. We've drilled down to, on average, maybe 150 vertical metres. Everything is open at depth. There's a lot of potential to go and find more high-grade extensions to those resources or discover new resources. So that's the 4 parts to our strategy, basically. If I jump to Goongarrie, basically, and go into the Sir Lawrence discovery, which is only a few months old. Basically, I mentioned the Kanowna Belle analogue was based on the geology and the structural setting. We're following this conglomerate unit, which thankfully shows up very clearly on the magnetics because you can't see any outcrop at surface. We did have an idea that was there based on geological mapping outside of the lake and projected into this area. Western Mining did do some limited amount of drilling many years ago in the 90s, and they just confirmed that there is a conglomerate there, but they didn't make a discovery. They didn't, unfortunately, drill into this area here. What attracted us really is these D4 late structures, these faults, which are very important in this area. And there's a really large cluster of these faults in this area. So this black outline is just our take on the Sir Lawrence prospect or the discovery. It's over 2 kilometres long so far. We did do some limited geochemistry targeting these structures earlier in the year. You can't do normal soil geochemistry like you can on dry land, but we did do some pits. So we dug down a certain level, got below a gypsum layer, so you're getting into the material that's not continually washed out and by rains. And we did get a 360 parts per billion anomaly there. That gave us a lot more confidence to go in and do the first round of air core drilling. The first pass drilling was this line here, and we hit +1 grams per tonne gold on 12 holes across that line. So obviously that got us pretty excited, and some of it is in transported sands and quartz gravels. We believe they're from very nearby, based on the angularity of the quartz gravels, because there is a big paleo drainage channel running through here, but some of it was also in bedrock. And we can see the alteration of the bedrock, intense chloride alteration, silicification, and some sulfides. So we said, rightio, we think we're right on top of something here. And we drilled one other line at the time and also got mineralisation on that. This now represents the second round of drilling. All those different coloured dots represent different grades. You can see orange is +0.5 grams per tonne, red is +1 gram per tonne. But basically anything in green with +0.1 grams per tonne for air core drilling is significant. Air core drilling doesn't penetrate the fresh rock, it stops at that interface. So you're only getting some of the weathered bedrock and the overburden. So now we have mineralisation on over approximately 1 kilometre. So we've got a very large system, and these blue holes, we've got 40 of those blue holes, they're all the pending assays. So those results will come in the next few weeks as well and help flesh out the results. But what is also very significant is on this southern line, 28 metres at 1.9, 16 metres of that was in bedrock, 12 metres in the overburden, but that started at 20 metres deep. Some of this mineralisation is much deeper. But also it was on the end of the line. That's why we come back and drill these additional holes. This is one of the last results we come in. That's in bedrock as well, in the last 2 metres of the hole. That's also on the end of the line. So what it's telling us is this whole area outside the magnetic unit is open and potential for mineralisation as well. We're seeing demagnetized mafic units in here as well as the conglomerate. So that's important. So it's basically wide open to the south, to the west, to the north, and even out here to the east. We're still getting some mineralisation there. So it's a very big system. We don't know how big yet. Air core drilling is really just the first pass, just scratching the surface. So we need that diamond drilling to tell us exactly what is in the bedrock, what the controls of the mineralisation are. And so we're really looking forward to getting those drill holes in before Christmas and also in the new year, and then come in and do pattern drill with RC to define the mineralisation in more detail next year. This is just a cross section of that line A, the southernmost one. You can see there's a bit more variability in the geology there. We've still got the conglomerate unit over here, mineralisation in bedrock and overburden. Felsimatic sediments. We did push the line further across here to test this dolerite contact, which we were aware of. And once again, we've got some mineralisation. So as far as the first pass air core drilling goes, that's a very significant result as well. So we'll have to follow that up as well. This is stepping back a bit. It's still under the lake, but the outside of the Sir Lawrence discovery and prospect, we've also got these other targets which we did on the first pass drilling as well, and got some anomalous results. Once again, above 100 parts per billion in air core is significant. So we've gone back and done additional holes. These red dots are basically the additional holes we did in the second round of drilling. All of those assays are pending, but we should have them in before Christmas. So there are many other targets outside of the Sir Lawrence one. This contact in the west is particularly important. It's a black flag sediments basalt contact, which goes all the way down to Kalgoorlie, goes through our target A9, which I'll show you in a minute as well, through Aphrodite as well. That contact is mineralised in multiple zones all the way down to Kalgoorlie. And then up here, this looks like this is an overturned syncline basically. So we're getting similar rock types here as over here, and this apex of the fold looks very interesting as well. We've got some anomalism there. It's much shallower up there, like 20 to 30 metres as well. So we really look forward to getting those results back in the next few weeks. I mentioned target A9. This is the southern part of the southern limits of our tenement package. This is our southern border. Earlier in the year, we also made a discovery down there. First pass air core, we had 6 metres at 17, within 38 metres at 3 grams per tonne. The next hole had 4 metres at 2.5 grams per tonne. And follow-up RC, we've got 20 metres at 2.5 grams per tonne, including 8 metres at 5. We haven't followed that up yet. We've got a drilling plan for next year to try and flesh that out. But once again, we've got anomalism over about 1 kilometre strike length. So that's on that contact I'll mention. Dave's got a discovery there as well. And that keeps on going down to Aphrodite's 1.7 million ounce deposit further south. So there's a lot more work to be done there. Just on the Menzies, when we acquired the project, we had about 170,000 ounces in JORC resources. Now we've got that up to 475,000 ounces at 1.4 grams per tonne. That's using a 0.5 gram cutoff, or about 350,000 ounces at 2.1 grams per tonne. So that's all just open pittable resources. You can see the limits of the resource there. Like Selkirk, for example, we only drilled down to 100 metres. Lady Harriet 100 metres, Stirling 100 metres. Stirling was a new discovery that we made in the Lady Shenton system. Yundag is the deepest resource, and Pericles. But basically, we have this corridor. It's about 1 kilometre wide, over 16 kilometres long. The yellow shapes are the mineralised systems. The red shapes are those resources projected to surface, basically. About half of the total resources are in the Lady Shenton system there. I mentioned Stirling is a new discovery. Pericles has not been mined before. Lady Shenton has an open pit on it. Lady Harriet does, Yundaga does, and Selkirk and Lady Irene do. They also have some very good historic underground mines at Yundaga. They went down to 600 vertical metres. We've drilled underneath it. Mineralisation is still open at depth. We've got a 25 gram per tonne intersection down to 730 metres. Lady Shenton was mined down to 250 vertical metres, produced 190,000 ounces at 32 grams per tonne. That system is still open. And First Tip also produced, which is in the Selkirk system, produced 170,000 ounces at 32 grams per tonne. We need to go back there and keep on drilling deeper, basically, and we'll continue to expand those resources. And the idea is, once the open pit mining is done, you might end up with one big open pit there. That will give us access to underground mining and just continue to follow it deeper and deeper, basically. This is just a long section of one of the lodes at Lady Shenton to give you an idea what's remaining. So the shallow open pit that was underground down here at 250 vertical metres. This is the new resources which haven't been exploited at all, and here. And then some of our recent drilling, which is not even in the resources, like 26 metres at 4.6 grams per tonne, including 2 metres at 50 grams per tonne. That could go in an open pit or an underground. It's economic both ways. So we do need to follow up this area and look at and re-optimise our resource models to see what can be mined, and then we've got to follow these chutes at depth. So there's a lot more potential like that. That's one of 3 lodes at Lady Shenton. that's summary of the resource estimates, and like I just shown, we were looking at a log section through there. So it just shows the concentration of mineralisation within that area, right next to the road, right next to Menzies. So there's a lot more potential there at Menzies.
Ed, thank you.
That's it.
Thank you very much. Two presentations to go, but I want to remind you of the COOP ASX Brand Management Door Prize, which is that fabulous 35-litre Yeti Esky, which is filled with selected Spinifex Brewing Company beers. All you've got to do is to scan the QR balls, register for a chance to win the prize, which will be announced tomorrow afternoon at 3 p.m. It's a great prize. That Esky is something special. All right. Joining us now, we welcome Oar Resources GM of Geology, Anthony Greenaway. Oar Resources is a metals explorer and aspiring producer with projects in WA, South Australia, and Nevada. Welcome along, Anthony Greenaway.
Thanks very much. And thank you for your attention today. It is late in the afternoon, so certainly appreciate that. I'll stick to my 15 minutes of fame up here so we can get on with other things. A very quick disclaimer, this presentation is on our website. I would encourage you to download that and read it. So look, I'm just going to run you through very briefly here three projects core projects that we have in Oar Resources. Our Crown project, located here in WA, just up there in Julimar, in the Chittering Valley, very close to Chalice's Gonneville discovery. I'll run you through our Alpine projects, which are over in Nevada, where we currently have drilling rigs spinning over there, and our Gibraltar project in South Australia, where we've outlined some fairly significant kaolin with very high grade halloysite associated with that. Just very briefly, a bit of a corporate structure for you there. You can see market cap of around $20 million at our share price of 1.1 as of today. 1.5 in the bank, and good liquidity with 7.5 million trades on average on a daily basis. So just very briefly with that, again, happy to run through that with you if you want to come past the booth. Board and management, Chris Gale, I'm glad to say I've got at least two of my directors here in the audience today, so thanks for that. Chris Gale, our executive chairman, seasoned campaigner and fairly extensive experience within listed companies. Dave Walensky, a lawyer and non-exec director here, again, very experienced. Joe, an intrepid traveller, I think is currently overseas again at the moment, but again, very experienced with listed companies. So a small board, but certainly very experienced. Myself, I'm a geologist and explorationist at heart. Sad to say, closer to 30 years experience than 25 here in Australia, overseas in Africa, and in South America as well. So moving on to the projects themselves, Crown. This is a project that's just located up just north of Perth, nice and easy for us to access. It's about an hour's drive away, which is exceptional for an exploration project. It's in the heart of an area that at the moment is getting a lot of attention because of Chalice mining, the Julimar discovery. We've got 800 hectares of ground there. We've identified a number of targets that we're systematically working our way through. And we've got teams in and on the ground as we speak, as of today. Just quickly, this project is focused around green metals, and you hear a lot of that in the presentations today, and certainly in the booths outside. And these are really focused around metals and commodities that are looking to help drive us forward into the next era of what we're doing, looking at decarbonisation of our planet and those sorts of things. Copper, again, is critical for that. Batteries and electrified EVs is going to take up a whole lot more copper, and the electrification of our network to drive those is certainly a big consumer of copper and will be important going forward. Nickel, again, in the battery technology, and PGEs and catalysts for hydrogen engines and things like that. So these are all metals that are really at the forefront of the new technologies that are coming out as we go. So Chalice made a discovery a little while ago that really put this part of the world back on the map. The Western Gneiss Terrain, as this is called, this area is called, was fairly unloved until that happened. It's been logged and known and mapped for a while. Not a great deal of discoveries in the area. So really, exploration out here hasn't been all that extensive. And when Julimar was discovered, the Gonneville discovery out there, it really put this back on the focus. And what that means for us is that it's a greenfields project. There's not a great deal of knowledge about the project itself. On a broad scale, we understand where the geology is, but on a project level scale, things aren't really known. So it's very much a greenfields project for us here. And nickel copper PG is again in that space for these green technologies, very much in focus at the moment. And this is a prime district for that. And that's really only come to the front again through the work that Chalice have done with their discovery out there. So you can see we're one of the early movers in that area. We're about 8 kilometres from Gonneville, just to the west of them. You can see Chalice has surrounded us. They're to the north of us, to the southeast, and then obviously to the east of us out there. We're 8 kilometres from Gonneville, as I said. And as again, labouring on here about it, but this is really underexplored and really unknown territory. There's not a great deal of work being done here. It's only really just in the last sort of couple of years, not even, that this is really sort of coming to the front. So again, what that means is, as geologists and explorers, we've got to go back to basics. We've got to have a look at the geology. We've got to build our understanding. And as Felicity said, early on in just today, it's about collecting information, it's about collecting data and using that data to drive you forward, so that you're using shareholders' money prudently and doing good exploration, science-based exploration. And that was certainly drummed into me as a young geologist working in the gold fields, and it sits true today. So there's, look, I guess I'll show you a slide later on with Chalice, and that will, I guess, really demonstrate the value upside in making these sorts of discoveries in these greenfields projects. And that's what we're trying to mimic here. That's what we're trying to do through that systematic science-based exploration. So whilst we were waiting for this tenement to be granted, we took on the magnetics and got guys over at Southern Geoscience to do some interpretation of that. And again, as an explorationist, it's about collecting data, doing the interpretation on that data, going out into the field, testing the interpretation, collecting more data, and just running that iterative process. And that's really what we're doing here. So I'm a very systematic, staged explorationist in the way that I work, and my team is the same. We have very specific gateways at each stage that we do. So again, we're using our shareholders' money prudently and wisely. So do some work, go to a point, test it, make sure that we understand what we're doing, and then if it meets the hurdles, progress it to the next stage. So you can see there's a number of magnetic features within the tenement there. They're fairly clear. There is actually an old gold mine. You can see that Chittering gold mine, the northern part of the tenement there. It's a structurally controlled, small vein-hosted gold deposit. So whilst this is, we're out here exploring for nickel copper PGEs in the layered intrusions out there, there is gold here as well. So again, it's a bit of a, I don't mind what I find. I'm an explorationist to go out there. I want to find anything for our shareholders. So if it's gold, great, I'll find that. If it's nickel copper PGEs, great, I'll find that too. So it's all about that systematic staged exploration that is driven by science and is driven by data. So stage one, you can see there is mapping and outcrop sampling. That's critical for here because, as I said, this area, whilst it's known on a regional scale, on a project level, the geology is poorly understood. So we've been out since the tenement's been granted on the ground, doing mapping, doing rock chip sampling, collecting that base level information to build up our geology out here and build up the story so that we know where we should be going and what we should be looking at. And we then progress into stage two, which is soil sampling, where we don't have outcrop to define our drill targets. And then assuming we get good results from that, we move on to drilling, which is obviously the costly side of things. So very staged, very systematic and progressive in what we do. And it's iterative all along the way. So targets we're looking for here, obviously the main target here, the big prize, is another Gonneville. So we're looking for mafic, ultramafic intrusives with nickel copper PGEs associated with those. We're looking for structurally controlled gold, similar to the Chittering gold mine, alteration zone and fold closure, those sorts of things associated with that gold. So this map was put together on the basis of the geophysics. So this is a geophysical interpretation, geology based on that. You can see this area was completely mapped as granite initially. Our geophysicists said they're seeing things that looked a bit more mafic and intermediate in the geophysics, so they put together this interpretation. And what we've done since being able to get on the ground is going out there and testing that, having a look at where we need to be and collecting information. We focused mostly on the central portion of that map and the western side of that map. Doing our mapping, doing our rock chip sampling. We put a whole lot of rocks in for petrological examination as well, thin section analysis. Again, trying to build our geological understanding of the area, just so that we can build that picture and really know that we were operating in the right place. Over that western side, unfortunately, most of the rocks out there were in fact granite. So whilst our geophysicists said there could be mafics out there, on the western side, mostly all mafics, mostly all granite, sorry. Some very nice looking structures and some good quartz veining in that we sampled to buggery. No gold associated with that, but you've got to give it a crack. So that's the western side. So we've somewhat downgraded that. But what we did find out there when we're out there on the eastern side of the project is we met mafics and ultra mafics out there. Some of our petrology as well came back with copper sulfides in those. So we know we've got ultramafics on the package. We know we've got copper sulfides in the system. So that's certainly encouraging us, and that's where we're now moving our work to. So we're down in the southeastern corner at the moment doing soil sampling. Again, back to our stage 1, stage 2 work out there. So this is the guys out on the ground. You can see soil sampling there. We're using a little hand auger just to speed things up. We've got about 300 odd samples that we've put into the lab. And like everyone, we're waiting on results to come back from those. We're progressing as quickly as we can, and again, moving our way through our stage exploration there. So look, it's really encouraging to be out here. And one of the really good things for us is word of mouth is getting out in terms of landholders in the area. And we're unlocking new areas to get into all the time. One of the big things here is your license to operate, engaging with the community and getting those relationships right. And thankfully, Ross, who is here today, is doing a great job of that and engaging with our landholders out there. And we're actually getting people now coming to us asking when we're moving into their areas to do exploration. So that's really encouraging, and certainly something that we really focus on is that landholder engagement and community engagement in the area. So look, we'll once those results will come in, we'll assess those, and assuming we get some results that are worthy of that, we'll progress those areas into stage 3 drilling, but certainly not before that. We need to make sure that we're testing the right targets and testing things in the correct order. This is that slide that I was sort of mentioned before in terms of upside. This is Chalice and their growth. You can see pre-discovery market cap of around 70, post around 2.2 billion. It's a nice goal to have. This is what we want to try and mimic. But I guess the message here is that right now with a market cap of 20 million, any discovery for us is going to produce significant upside. So that's the inspirational picture up on my wall when I walk into the office every day. We're going to jump across to Nevada at the moment to our alpine projects. We have 3 projects over in that part of the world. You can see Lamberson Canyon up in the north there just sits on the Birchall Trend, just outside a number of mines that are fairly significant up there. This is a Carlin style target that we're chasing out there, very large, low grade gold deposit. Lots of ounces in the ground in those projects out there. We've done some drilling on that project, and I'll just run you briefly through that. Douglas Canyon is the main focus for at the moment. It's a bit further south, sits between Reno and Las Vegas. As you can see there, I'm very keen to get over to that part of the world, but with travel as it is, can't get there just yet. Douglas Canyon, we have epithermal high-grade gold and silver and epithermal veins hosted in structures, and we're currently drilling that project as we speak. We've got a diamond rig spinning away out there. So as I said, we drilled a couple of holes into Lamberson Canyon about this time last year, chasing those big Carlin type deposits. We got a lot of alteration. We got a lot of structure. The core was very broken, very difficult drilling, and we lost a lot of core at the top of that hole. And I think we actually lost part of our mineralization in that, which was a bit disappointing. But we did get 1.2 meters at 3 grams, fairly deep down, but it certainly showed us that we have got gold in that system and there's a lot of alteration. So we're going through a process at the moment again, where we've collected a significant amount of information and we are looking at some lithogeochem mapping of the alteration system out there to vector us into the next portion for drilling out at Lamberson. But really the focus at the moment here is Douglas Canyon. This is a structurally hosted epithermal vein system. Again, we've done our mapping out there on the ground. We've collected a number of rock chip samples, and you can see some of the grades that we're getting out there. 16 grams gold and nearly 500 grams silver, 14 grams gold, 420 grams silver. So these are very high grade gold silver veins sitting within a main structure that we've been able to map on surface and sample over quite a distance. So, and it's continuous and it's consistent grade. So again, we progressed that through to our next phase of work, which is drill testing. So we've got a drill rig out on the site at the moment. That target hole is around about 800 feet. We're about 500 feet down. So we're just getting into our ore zone at the moment, or what we think is our ore zone. Again, we're in a very broken core. It's very altered. Now we're just looking for those quartz veins to come into that system. We've got a number of samples in the lab at the moment for the top part of that hole. So we'll see how they come out in the next short while. You can see our rig there on the ground. We've got 4 holes planned here. We'll look at drilling 2 of those, testing the 2 main targets that we have. And based on results from that, we'll look at putting another couple of holes into those. But again, based on the information that we see through there. 75 odd samples in the lab, as I said, with results pending at the moment. But the lab in Reno is actually pretty good. So I'm hoping they're not going to be too far away. And very quickly, just over on Gibraltar, this is a project on the Eyre Peninsula. This is a kaolin halloysite project, a very large land holding over there, and we've defined a number of zones of bright kaolin, but more importantly, some very high-grade halloysite. We've done a number of campaigns of drilling out here. This is shallow air core drilling, so it's nice and quick and fairly inexpensive. So you can see some of the results that we're getting out there. 5 meters at 80 ISO brightness and close to surface at 17 meters. But importantly, 53% halloysite is an exceptional grade out there. So we're doing some work with a number of groups to have a look at how you process that, how we can unlock the value in this project. There's a number of opportunities that we're looking through there. We will be out there doing some more work in that southeastern corner. You can see there's a very large brightness anomaly out there, as well as some very high-grade halloysite. And that's over a different rock type, more felsic granite through there, where we believe we will be looking at getting better quality kaolin through there. So we'll look at focusing on that early in the new year. Very quickly, just upcoming catalysts and activities obviously with the Alpine projects, Douglas Canyon drilling out there, and results hopefully coming through fairly shortly for that. Crown project, we're going through identifying our drill targets. We're doing our systematic exploration on that, and news flow will come from that as we do that work. With Gibraltar, again, our step out work in the southwest corner, looking at those brightness and halloysite anomalies out there. So that is an ongoing project for us. In terms of growth, otherwise, the supply of lithium battery metals is forecast to rise. And again, I'm not going to harp on about that. You've heard from that from a lot of people out here. There's a lot of demand for these minerals. So we only see the upside in all of these commodities that we're looking at. So we believe we're in the right place. We've got the right strategy. We've got the right team in place, and it's the right time for looking at these for these minerals that we're looking for. Again, thank you for your time so late in the afternoon. And we are at the booth, so please feel free to drop by any time and have a chat. Thanks.
Our final presentation for today. Anova Metals is an advanced gold exploration company that owns 100% of the Big Springs gold project in Nevada in the USA. It contains more than 1 million ounces of gold. To tell us more, we welcome project manager, Dr. Geoff Zhu. Welcome along, Geoff.
All right, thank you. Thank you for the introduction, and also thank you for having me here. And particularly much appreciated for everyone still being here. It's almost close to 6, so I will to finish the presentation within 15 minutes. And so this is we are Anova, and sorry, what's that? Now I want to move to the next slide. It's Yeah, sorry. Thank you. Yeah, I will pass this one. And okay, that's basically this is a summary slide about my presentation. So for Anova, we are a gold exploration company, and our project Big Springs actually in north of Nevada. And for us, this Big Spring that has 1 million ounces of gold resources right now. It has close to half of it is high grade stuff with grade about 4. And we also our tenement package right now is more than 80 square kilometers. And we have received a mining permit, which will allow us to start stage 1 mining activities, which include 2 open pits and also 1 underground. And on the basis of last several years' work, we also identified more than 40 highly potential district targets. And also for Anova as a company-wise, we are fully well-funded, and also because of the potential to generate early cash flow. So we think we are in a very good position to keep doing aggressive exploration on those district targets to keep growing resources. Yeah, first question is why Nevada? Because to me, I think there are 3 things. The first one is in Tier 1 jurisdiction. That's in. Second one is in Nevada. So Nevada is kind of like a WA here in Australia. It accounts for more than 80% of the gold production in the States. And the third thing is we are here. That's sorry, how to move to the last slide? Red. Yes. Yes, that's where we are right now here. Yeah, it is close to, it's just 1.5 hours away from Elko. So Elko basically is like a Calgary here in WA. So it has all the services, it has drilling companies, it has a consultant, so everything we need, and also close to the infrastructures. As for Big Spring project itself, if you can, that's our tenement. It's more than 80 square kilometer right now. And that's our neighbor, Jeremy Canyon. So Jeremy Canyon is one of the biggest gold deposit in northern Nevada. It has been keep producing since 1980s. It has been produced for more than 10 million ounces of gold right now. And the company right now own this project. It's First Majestic. So that's one of the largest silver producing company globally. And this will be their first gold project. And for us right now, we have more than 1 million ounces of gold, and close to half of that is more than is above 4 grams per ton. And in history, because this belt, this area, actually first being that's first gold deposit being discovered. That's this one. It was discovered back in 1970s, and after that, it's Jeremy Canyon was discovered in 1980s. But it's just because Jeremy Canyon that's a relatively flat area, and also that's close to the town. So that's why that's one after discovery of Jeremy Canyon. So Big Spring has been kind of like a leftover. So that's why, and also particularly after 2000, before we came on board. So this project was occupied by several private owners. So it was kind of like underexplored and a lack of modern technologies to do more exploration activities. Yes, since we came on board, basically, we have done 2 things. The first one is we spent time working with the local consultant to get the mining permit. So right now we have the mining permit to start stage 1 mining activities, which include 2 open pits and also 1 underground. That's shovel ready. Right now we are talking with potential contractors and also surrounding plant for toll treatment and other other arrangement. And after that, so the company, since we got the mining permit, the company has been gradually move our focus into regional exploration to test the target and also grow the resources. Particularly for last 2 years, what we have done is gravity, magnetic, hydrospectral imaging, soil sampling, and also mapping. On the basis of that work, and also we have done comprehensive target studying. Like this list, the list here, that's what we have done this year. We have done target studying, soil sampling, mapping, and also we have secured more land and more prospecting land. And what we are still working literally right now, that's drilling and also to apply for a PO plan of operation. So PO really that's like a working permit. With that one being permitted, we will be fully permitted to do drilling and also other exploration activities in one area. So for the next slide, from the next slide, I will introduce you a bit more of each job that we have done. First one is the targeting study. So on the basis of the work that we have done, like a geophysical surveys and also soil sampling and also geochemistry and historical drilling data, and we're working with consultant Dr. Steve Gavin and Dr. Amanda Buckingham. Steve used to be a chief geologist of Newmont in Nevada, and also Amanda, she is a very well-known geophysicist, and right now she is a director of just joined us recently. So led by these two geologists and geophysicists, we have done a comprehensive target study. And during this study, it's finished early this year, and also the result has been released to the market on the announcement. And we identified 18 near-mine targets. And this 18 near-mine target is aiming to expand the high-grade resources. And also, we have identified 41 district targets. This district target is the criteria for this one. So for these targets are the drilling result, soil sampling, and also mapping result, and also the structures, the faults that are identified from the gravities. The second job that we have done, since we have finished the targeting study, so we have done soil sampling and also mapping. The aiming for these two jobs is to refine or assess that target that we identified. For example, we have finished soil sampling in 3 areas with a size of 17 square kilometers. Like this area, and also this area. You can see the circles that are the targets that we identified. And also the aiming of this soil sampling is going to have a test of this target and also refine them. It will give us more guidance to do exploration for next year. So this we have selected more than 5,000 more than 5,000 samples and send it to the lab already. So hopefully we can get the results this month. Also, we have done a surface geology mapping. So same as soil sampling, the aiming of this job is to provide more on-ground information. And also because as a geologist, we know because it's different from in WA, because over there we have lots of outcrops. So from the geology perspective, we can do mapping. We can see like the samples here. Like the samples here. So we can see the outcrop, we can see the alteration, we can see the mineralogy and also structures. It's very useful for us to identify the mineralization from outcrop. So it will be very easy. It's an easy way and also the cheap way to do exploration, and also will give us more guidance and for the drilling program designs. So for the mapping that we have done, we have finished at a cross zone and also Beatles Creek, and also we are going to move to new areas for next year's drilling mapping program. The other job on the basis of the targeting study, we have, and also the gravities and also geophysical survey. So we have secured more land. Basically, before this, our tenement package is 50 square kilometer, but right now we have secured more land. Right now it's bringing us total to more than 80 square kilometers. And particularly for this areas that's here between Dawson Creek and Jacks Creek. If you can see, that's a big structure here coming from the existing resources from here and coming to this area here. And you can see that's a target that we identified from the study that fall in with the new tenements of us. And also some of the tenement we have identified, we have found like historical data, historical rock soil sampling and rock chip sampling. Sorry. Returns very good gold anomalies. In this area here, that's a specific unit that we call it a Hannon Creek unit. That one is a preferred unit to host the kaolin mineralization in this belt. Drilling program, that's what we just commenced since the middle of October. So we are permitted to drill more than 5,000 meters of RC programs, different from previous years. So we are going, for this year's drilling program, we are more focused on the regional targeting test. So for example, like the target that we identified from the study and also from the surface mapping. So for this year, the drilling program that we have done at well, we're still drilling. That's crusher zone is here along this Beatles Creek fault. That's a bit existing resources at Beetle Creek. That's existing resources at 601. So this is a mineral zone controlled by this fault identified from gravity study. And what we are going to do is drill 6 different sections. Yeah, if you can see this long section map here, that's Beatles Creek, that's here, and that's 601 pit mineralization, that's here. So we are going to drill through in the middle 6 sections, and also going to ideally to find a repeat ore body. This is another deposit that's going to drill the intersection of these 2 different faults identified from gravity. If we are going to look a bit more in detail, so this one is for crusher zone. So crusher zone, that's it was a discovered mineralization that's well hosted by Unit D. Unit D, which is basically dolomite or carbonaceous sandstone. So this is Unit D as well. So the target here, so 5 holes has been finished on this target. And also we are going to drill through the Unit D and also going to target the intersection here, intersection of 2 different faults. And if you can look at the chips here, and we have found very good encouraging chips. The intense sulfide mineralization and also quartz veins and also intense agitic alteration. All of them are very good indicators of gold mineralization over there. So we're just waiting for the assay result. So hopefully we can get that from the, this month as well. The second one is about the Beatles Creek, which is the 6 sections that we drilled along the Beatles Creek fault. This is just one of the sections. If you can see here, the shell, that's our proposed open pit cut to mine the existing resources. And here, that's we drill hole. These 2 are the finished holes. This one is still haven't been drilled yet. So these 2 drilled holes that we have identified host mineralization within the Beatles Creek fault, which just proved our theory to drill through the fault. And looking at the chips here, we have the intense sulfide mineralization, quartz veins, and also agitic fault, and also agitic alteration, and other indicators of mineralization. Again, that's this one will be a different deposit with this one, because this one is going to be hosted by the Beatles Creek fault, and also probably it will be a repeat fault or repeat ore body with this one. Yeah, the other work is that we are still working on right now, because if you look at the map, right now we are only allowed to do drilling activity within this area, and also drilling and also mining activity within this area. That's our existing plan of operation pool. But from our target study and also other mapping and geophysics, geochemistry, we have identified a bunch of other high potential targets in a wide area. So that's why we are working with local consultant, talking with government to say we want to explore more, and also we want to test out this target. So that's why we are going to apply a new expanded plan of operation. This area will be more than 3,600 hectares. And if that's one biology survey and a cultural survey has been finished, and also we are working with local consultant to do the drafting. And the report will be submitted to the department before end of this year, and hopefully get permitted by mid of next year. If that's the case, we will do extensive drilling to test those targets. For example, this target here, we have done soil sampling and also going to do mapping. And also we are going to test these areas and also these areas. Yeah, that's what we have done, and also where we are. To put it simple, so Anova has 1 million ounces of gold resources, and got 1 million ounces of resource of gold deposit, and also with a bunch of more than 40 high potential targets in Nevada. Nevada is a tier 1 jurisdiction, and also we have mining permit to start stage 1 mining operation, which include 2 open pit and also 1 underground. We are well funded to do aggressive exploration in the next few years. All right, thank you very much.
Thank you, Geoff. And that brings us to the close of the official part of the day. Now, we are celebrating our 200th conference, and so drinks are now available, or as the late Richie Benno would say, drinks are on the field. But on your way there, you may need to, you may want to check out the QR balls and register for a chance to win the 35-liter Yeti Esky, which has been filled with selected Spinifex Brewing Company beers. We will see you tomorrow morning. We kick off here at 9 a.m.